Hello and welcome back. Um, like I said last week, I am recording a couple videos today. As this week, as you're watching it, I will be traveling. Um, and so I just wanted to make it easier for myself. Make sure I get these two videos out. I might do a video from, maybe a short video on the phone, something like that, from wherever I will be. I'll have to see what opportunities are presented. Um, I was thinking about it last week or in the last video, as I was talking about traveling and coffee and how I don't have coffee on airplanes. Is that it would be kind of funny to then do a video on the airplane. Um, I'm not sure how that would work out, but that would be that would be kind of a curious experience. Mm. I've got of course, the Yemen still. Port of Mocha, I'll link to them below. Um, Went and refilled my mug after recording the last video, and now we're on to the next one. Mm. It's actually cooled off, and I'm really getting the Tootsie Roll now, interestingly enough. I think I said before that it was drifting into like a milk chocolate, but it really is more Tootsie Roll today. Kind of interesting how coffee can change even day to day as you're brewing it. Um, I think it's totally a sidebar. I actually have something else written down to chat about, but thinking about consistency of brewing. And I see so often people get really into trying to make the perfect cup of coffee and trying to get everything dialed in, and as soon as you figure out exactly how to brew, then you're going to be perfect and yada yada. But the thing is, coffee changes. It doesn't really matter how perfectly you brew a cup unless you have a really high-end machine making the coffee. Even then, every single day you're going to have to tweak that machine. Like, I don't know. I stopped trying to be so intent on making the brew perfect, and rather I established consistent practices so that I know that I'm brewing a really good cup of coffee being too without being too focused on the outcome. Rather, the process is good, because even if I'm absolutely perfect and consistent in the brewing process every single time, the outcome will shift day to day, and I'll see different things. Even just, I think, the things that I've been consuming or my mood can change, like what I see in a coffee. So um, I think that hmm, I think that it's more prudent to just focus on the basics. Um, Brew with good consistent ratios. Um, get you know uh, Make sure you have good tools, good grinder, coffee grinder. Make sure you're using good water. I did actually notice the last week, or maybe it was earlier this week. I was starting to consistently see that it seemed like my brews were under extracting. So I actually bumped my grind setting down finer a couple notches. Um, and I don't know why that is. Like, the brews were coming out really well for quite a while, just at the one grind setting, but I started just noticing that I was getting this slight sourness to it, and the all the coffees I was brewing were missing a rich sweetness. So I tightened the grind down. I guess you'd say, made it finer, um, so that I could extract more. This is all brewing on the Kalita Wave. It's quite possible it's like uh, change in the weather can do that kind of thing. Maybe just the way that the grinder behaves over time. Maybe I need to clean the grinder. Maybe there's like some ground stuck somewhere that are we're changing how the burrs are sitting. I don't know, but I think it's far too easy when you do brew a coffee the way you hope to see it, or or let's take a scenario where you brew a coffee and it comes out in this beautiful, perfect way. It's a natural Yirgacheffe. You've got wild blueberries, sugary sweetness, and you hit that brew a couple of times, and then it shifts on you. Uh, if you if your reaction to that is, oh, I need to work on my brew method, I think you're just going to be constantly chasing your own tail, versus just accepting the volatile, fleeting nature of the delicious complexity of coffee. Sometimes I think some coffees will give you the the experience that you want in just a minute window. Um, sometimes though they will last for a while, but I think sometimes um, you're only going to get that experience for just a short period of time. I think that's okay. Yeah. As a sidebar, um, I noticed a discussion about how some of the higher end, larger roasters have drifted away from doing roasted on dates. And there seems to be this. There's been a real push towards uh, the quality of coffee storage, and how coffee is sealed in bags and that sort of thing, to the point where if you do it right, you can roast a coffee, and then a few days after roast, you seal it in a bag, and then months later, when you open the bag, the coffee will be just as fresh. Like, there are processes and materials for doing that. I think the thing that is missed, though, because I've done these tests myself, is that yes, the first cup or two out of that bag is going to be just as if it was fresh, but there's a really steep, rapid drop off after you open that bag. Like, if you get a fresh roasted coffee and you freeze it, like for the sake of perfection, let's say you seal the coffee using uh, one of those one of those machines that lets you seal something. And why can't my brain work today? Jeez. Suck all the air out of the thing in the plastic container. Wow, that's an explanation. Anyways, so goodness. So let's say you get you get you get the roasted whole bean coffee in a container with no air, like in a plastic bag. All the air sucked out. You stick that in the freezer. Let's say it all freezes perfectly. Yada yada. You do that. You let it sit in the freezer for 6 months. You take it out after 6 months. Let it thaw. Open it up. First couple brews of coffee from there are going to be as good as the day that you froze the coffee. Um, it's going to be delicious. But that coffee, that vibrancy is going to disappear really fast, like within days of opening that bag. Versus if you compare it to um, like the time scale right after roast. So let's say we're freezing 4 days after roast. When if you brew it then, you're going to have a really vibrant, delicious cup of coffee, and you're going to get that for 2-3 weeks, There's going to start to be a slow drop off, but you're going to have really great cups of coffee for at least a couple of weeks from that point, like full vibrancy. But that couple of weeks time, after being frozen for several months, is going to be shrunk. So your vibrancy is going to disappear within a couple of days. That has been my experience with the storage of coffee, is that yes, you can store the coffee for a long period of time and still have it really fresh. This is roasted coffee. But after that point, after you either unfreeze it or release it from its sealed container, the vibrancy drops off really fast. I don't know why that is. My guess is that even though there's no oxygen in those environments, no light, no oxygen to interact with the coffee to sort of deteriorate it, I imagine there's still some kind of process happening. Something with the structure of the coffee is leading it faster towards that breakdown state once it is released, once it is unfrozen, unsealed. This has been a weird tangent of topics on this video. I actually I wrote down this whole thing about coffee-related business ideas because I went and got a haircut, and I was sitting there getting my haircut being like, why can't I have a really good cup of coffee right now? And then that got me to thinking on different coffee-related business ideas, which maybe I'll do in a different video. Anyways, so I guess I hope that, part of me hopes that the industry is not going in that direction of doing these long stored coffees like post roast. I think that it's clear that freezing your green coffee works really well, and that you can have a really high quality green coffee come in. George Howell does this, is that he'll spend a lot of money on really highly rated coffees. He'll pre-sell a batch, like pre-sell as in sell a whole bunch and then roast that batch. And then whatever is not sold in that process, in that pre-selling and then roasted, whatever's not sold and roasted gets frozen as green coffee. And then at a later date, when he's ready to cycle through that special coffee again, they will offer that for sale. Whatever is sold in that promotion gets unfrozen and roasted. So that's a really interesting way from a green coffee perspective to preserve the quality and value of a coffee. But I'm worried that people are going to start trying to do that with roasted coffee. I don't know. Maybe it isn't actually happening. Maybe what I'm experiencing in terms of that steep drop off after a long storage period of time. Maybe what I'm experiencing there is something else, and maybe I need to find some of these coffees and test this thought process out. But I don't know. There's also the challenge that when you scale up in coffee, when you do larger amounts of production, at a certain point you just have to deal with coffee being stored for a while. Like you can't do, or it's really, really hard to do large scale roasted to order. Very, very hard to do that. That's why Starbucks doesn't do that, because that would be ridiculous and impossible. And I think the companies that are starting to test out the new methods of bagging coffee in a way that preserves the vibrancy for a long period of time. I think these are companies that are trying to scale up on the specialty side of things. I don't want to name anything specifically because this is only like what I've read as from a third-party perspective. I don't have the experience myself, so I want to research on that. Anyways, that was a total total tangent of topics to chat about. If anything in there struck your fancy, if you have any thoughts, please comment below the video. Always happy to chat about coffee. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble about random things. And I'll see you in the next video.